Today we're talking about the gray wave. And no, it's not a weather pattern. It's a huge, fast-approaching shift where millions of small and mid-sized business owners are going to retire, step back, or pass the baton. And the numbers are kind of staggering. By the mid-2030s, you're looking at something like 6 million ownership transitions, with trillions of dollars of enterprise value tied up in these companies.
That's the part that always stops me. It's not just a demographic trend. It's a wealth event. It's also an operational event, a leadership event, and in a lot of cases, a family event. Because for many owners, the business isn't just an asset. It's identity, community, and the thing they've built for decades.
Exactly. So if you own an SMB or you're part of a leadership team or you're a potential buyer, this is not a maybe someday topic. The gray wave is already here in pockets, and it's accelerating. The big question is, how do you navigate it without leaving value on the table, burning out, or accidentally creating a mess for your family and employees?
Let's make it practical. There are really 4 big paths people tend to consider: selling the business, buying another business or merging, transitioning to family, or transitioning to employees. And each path has its own risks, timelines, and emotional landmines.
And what I want to do is walk through a playbook, not one weird trick. A real framework. What to do early, what to do right before a deal or transition, and what to watch out for so you don't get blindsided.
Before we even get into the paths, there's one foundational idea. You don't prepare to exit. You prepare to be able to exit. There's a difference.
Yes, exit ready isn't a date on the calendar. It's a state of the business. And being exit ready can actually make your life better even if you never sell, because it forces you to build a healthier company.
So let's start with the first step, deciding what you want. Because owners skip this and then regret it. Do you want the maximum price? Do you want the fast close? Do you want to protect employees? Do you want to keep the name on the door? Do you want to stay involved part-time?
And do you want liquidity or do you want legacy? Because those can be compatible, but they're not the same. Sometimes the highest bidder is the one most likely to cut staff or flip the company. Sometimes the best cultural fit pays less, but gives you the outcome you actually care about.
Here's a quick gut check question for anyone listening. If someone handed you a fair offer tomorrow, would you be ready to say yes? Not emotionally, operationally. Could the company run without you? Are your financials clean? Are major customers tied to your personal relationships?
That brings us to the most common value killer, owner dependency. If the business can't function without you, buyers see risk. The more risk they see, the more they discount the price, demand earnouts, or walk away.
So how do you reduce owner dependency? It's not just hire a manager. It's building a leadership layer, documenting key processes, and shifting relationships from "I know Alex" to "I trust this company."
A great practical move is identifying the top 5 decisions you make every week and asking, who else could make that decision if I was unavailable for 90 days? If the answer is no one, that's your first transition project.
Let's talk money and records, because this is where deals get choked. If your books are messy, if personal expenses run through the company, if you have inconsistent revenue recognition, you're creating friction. And friction costs money.
Right. Buyers don't just buy revenue. They buy reliable cash flow. They want to see clean financial statements, clear add-backs, and believable margins. If you're thinking about a transition in the next 3 to 5 years, you should be upgrading your accounting discipline now, not later.
And it's not only financial diligence. There's operational diligence, customer concentration, supplier risk, contract terms, IP, data security, compliance. You don't need to be perfect, but you need to know where the landmines are and have a plan.
Let's make it tangible. Customer concentration is a big one. If 35% of your revenue comes from one client, a buyer hears, if that client leaves, this business collapses. So your job becomes either reducing that concentration or making the relationship stickier through contracts, multi-year agreements, or diversification.
Okay, now let's walk through the 4 major transition paths. First, selling to an external buyer. That could be a strategic buyer, a competitor, a private equity group, a family office, or an individual.
Selling excellently is often the path to the biggest liquidity event, but it can also be the path with the highest emotional whiplash. You go from being the final decision maker to being part of someone else's plan, at least for a while.
And a lot of deals aren't just cash at close. There might be earnouts, seller notes, rollover equity, or performance targets. Owners hear a big headline number and don't focus enough on the structure.
This is where you ask, how much is guaranteed, how much is contingent, and what do I have to do to get the rest? Because you can sell a company and still be on the hook for years, effectively working to earn your own purchase price.
Also, who do you bring onto your team? You're not just choosing a buyer. You're building an advisory bench, an M&A attorney, a CPA with transaction experience, maybe an investment banker or broker depending on size, and a wealth planner if the sale is material.
And here's a quiet truth. The best time to meet those advisors is before you need them, not in a panic, because someone sent you a letter of intent and now you're racing against deadlines.
Second path, acquisition or merger. Sometimes the grey wave creates a weird opportunity. Owners retiring means businesses become available that were never on the market before. So you might not be the seller, you might be the buyer.
Totally. But buying a business while running your own is like trying to remodel a house while you're living in it. Integration's a whole game. Systems, people, pricing, culture, customers. A cheap deal can become expensive if integration fails.
A merger can also be a succession solution. Two firms combine, and suddenly you have broader leadership, deeper bench, and a more valuable platform. But mergers fail when people assume synergy will happen automatically.
A good merger plan answers 3 questions clearly. Who's in charge of what changes on day one, and how disputes get resolved. If those aren't clear, you'll feel it later, usually at the worst possible time.
Third path, legacy transition to family. This one is loaded, because the business intersects with relationships that existed long before any org chart.
Family transitions succeed when they're treated like business decisions, not just family hopes. The key is separating ownership from management. Your child might be a great owner, but not the best CEO, or the opposite.
And fairness is not the same as equality. If one child runs the business and another doesn't, splitting everything down the middle might feel equal, but it can create resentment and operational paralysis.
This is where structure matters. Voting versus non-voting shares, buy-sell agreements, clear compensation policies, and a real governance rhythm. And I'll say it, if you don't have hard conversations while you're healthy, your family will have harder conversations when you're not.
Fourth path, transition to employees, often through an internal sale, a management buyout, or an ESOP depending on the company and jurisdiction.
Employee transitions can be powerful because they reward the people who built the company, but they're not automatic. The biggest constraint is usually financing. Employees may not have the capital to buy you out without debt, seller financing, or an ESOP structure.
And you still need leadership capability. If the business is going to be employee-owned or employee-led, you've got to develop managers who can drive performance without you. Otherwise, you're transferring ownership without transferring the ability to steward it.
So across all 4 paths, the repeated theme is build a business that can run, produce cash flow, and grow without the founder being the glue.
Let's talk timeline, because people underestimate this. A solid transition often takes years, not months. There's the make the business attractive phase, the market or negotiate phase, the diligence and documentation phase, and then the post-close transition phase.
And the post-close phase is where many owners feel surprised. Even if you sell, you may still have a role. You may be training a successor. You may be helping retain customers. You may be hitting performance targets. So you want to design your next chapter deliberately.
Because what happens if you don't? You sell, you get the money, and then Monday comes. No calls, no problems to solve, no team depending on you. For some people, that feels like freedom. For others, it feels like a cliff.
So a healthy succession plan includes a personal plan. Where are you moving toward? Another venture? Board roles? Community work? Time with family? Even just rest? You don't want the first time you think about that to be after you've signed the papers.
Let's switch to the buyer market for a second. The grey wave means there will be a lot of businesses available. That can create competition among sellers. In some industries, that might put pressure on valuations.
Which means differentiation matters. Buyers will pay more for businesses with recurring revenue, diversified customers, strong middle management, modern systems, and clear growth levers. If your company is a black box, it blends in with every other listing.
So what are the highest leverage upgrades an owner can make in the next 12 to 24 months?
I'd put them in 5 buckets. 1. Clean financials and credible reporting. 2. Reduce customer concentration and formalize customer retention. 3. Build leadership depth and document processes. 4. Tighten legal and operational housekeeping, contracts, IP compliance. 5. Sharpen the story of the business, why it wins, what drives growth, and what a new owner could do on day one to expand it.
That story part is underrated. People think buyers only buy spreadsheets. But buyers are also buying a narrative. What's the market? Why does this company matter? And where can it go?
And if you can't explain your growth engine simply, how you get leads, convert them, fulfill, retain, and expand, then a buyer will assume growth is accidental. Accidental growth rarely gets top dollar.
Let's address a myth that succession planning is only for giant companies. That's just not true. In SMBs, succession planning is often more urgent because so much knowledge and so many relationships live in one person's head.
Also, owners sometimes believe they'll just work forever and decide later. But life doesn't always give you a clean runway. Health events happen. Family needs change. Burnout shows up. The best time to create options is when you don't urgently need them.
So if someone listening wants a starting point, like, what do I do this week? What would you tell them?
3 things. First, write down your preferred transition path and your second best option. Just naming it reduces uncertainty. Second, list the top 10 risks that would reduce the value of your business in the buyer's eyes. Owner dependency, customer concentration, messy books, whatever it is. Third, schedule a meeting with your CPA or financial lead to talk about what clean should look like if you're going through diligence in 18 months.
And I'll add one more. Talk to your leadership team about building a stronger bench. Not I'm leaving next year, but let's reduce single points of failure. People usually respond well to that because it makes the business stronger and their careers bigger.
Let's also be honest. Transitions can bring up fear. Fear of letting go. Fear of being judged by the deal. Fear of what employees will think. Fear of losing purpose.
And sometimes fear shows up as procrastination. You get busy, you postpone documenting systems, you avoid the tough compensation conversation with family, you wait to upgrade reporting. Then a buyer shows up and you're negotiating from a rushed position.
But the gray wave is also an opportunity. If you prepare early, you can create choices. Sell, merge, pass it on, or even simply step back to chairman and keep ownership while the company runs without you.
That's the real win, optionality. Not being forced into one path because time ran out.
So as we wrap up, here's the big takeaway. The gray wave isn't just about retirement. It's about whether the businesses that underpin local economies and the wealth tied up in them transfer successfully. And success isn't only a signed deal. It's continuity for customers, stability for employees, and a next chapter that the owner actually wants.
If you're an owner, start sooner than feels necessary. If you're a buyer, be thoughtful. You're not just acquiring assets, you're inheriting relationships. And if you're part of a family or team in the middle of this, remember that clarity and structure beat assumptions every time.
The gray wave is coming, but it doesn't have to be a shock. With preparation, it can be a planned handoff, and maybe even the most rewarding chapter of the whole journey.